We're rolling.
We're rolling. Okay. All right. So, hey everybody, welcome to the Magic Box Talk Show. We're here at Dollar City, Fun City. Is it a Dollar City? Is it a Fun City? They couldn't decide. So they just kind of scrunched them both together so they could have both. You could have your cake and eat it too. So, thank you for the Dollar City store for hosting the Magic Box Talk Show. And here's Dave from Dollar City. Dave is the manager. Yay! Dave does a really good job of hosting all kinds of really fun events. There's been music here, you name it. Good stuff. So right now, today on the Magic Box Talk Show, we have one Mr. Peter Lindener. Yay! People know Peter from...
You hold the applause. It's okay.
Okay. People know Peter from playing saxophone out at Pacific Avenue. Oh, you brought the saxophone. All right, you better break it out and put on a big show for people. Yeah. Oh, hold the applause.
Okay. I just want to talk about Dave, the chap who owns Dollar City. He has vision because his vision is that fun doesn't have to cost more than $1. Okay.
Well, sometimes it costs as many as $2, $5, $10, or $20. Or even more than that.
But it doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to. It's true. And overall, I think the philosophy of the store is to keep commodities nice and affordable. So, and what a interesting variety of commodities we have here at the Dollar City store. Hey, look at that! It's a saxophone. That's an amazing piece of equipment there. It's a marvel of engineering. It's also aesthetically pleasing to the eye and ear.
Okay. So we were going to talk about
election systems.
Yeah.
Which Peter also. Did you know Peter was an expert on election systems? Did you know that? Well, so people don't even know these things.
Well, okay. So the last 8 years of my life in mathematics of how to build election systems which really truly represent the will of the electorate.
Wait, Peter. Are you saying that the election system that we have right now doesn't truly represent the will of the electorate?
Am I allowed to say that?
I don't know. Is it against the law to say things like that? I don't know.
Okay. So the idea that we could pack everything we want or don't want in life, you and I and everyone else, into a single decision between two people who, with the idea that we can pack all of what matters in life into a single bit, and then if we express that single bit as a group, that somehow we expressed ourselves, that it all fit into all of the will of the electorate fits into a single bit.
All the complexity of all the different things
that we care or don't care about. All fits into a single bit, and because we saw
one versus the other with the two-party
system. Two lousy choices.
So so your choice is: do you want the Mitt Romney bit to encapsulate everything that you've
or the other side of that bit,
or the Barack Obama bit,
right? And
don't talk about the third parties, not during an election.
So gigabits per second? No. We're talking about 1 bit every 4 years.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, 1 bit every 4 years.
That's the big choice.
And that's the bandwidth. So collectively, we as a group
and then you can say
express 1 bit
there's 100 bits in the Senate, so you get 2 bits for each state.
Well, it turns out that even there, because they then turn into a circus, it's really just a choice between 2 or 3 different circus acts.
Yeah, right. They sort of become like general demographic groups.
Like Barnum and Bailey's 3-ring circus versus Cirque du Soleil. There might be a couple others. So there might be 2 bits in the choice of which circus act we want for our Senate chambers. Okay, so there's more than 1 bit.
So are you saying now that there's a way that you could, let's say, aggregate the votes of different people on different issues in such a way that would more reflect the complexity of the range of opinions than just sandwiching everything, scrunching it all down into 1 bit of information?
Well, don't you? I mean, can't we just like continue with this ritual where we get to make this one choice every 4 years, and that somehow we like felt like we expressed ourselves?
It is kind of a cathartic ritual now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you want to like break my heart or your heart by like coming to the realization that that's not like true democracy? Because it could be really like,
well, maybe
if we
actually
actually
let the corporations make the choice for us
If we
by
had to-
only allowing
if we had to fix
us
it.
to be presented with candidates that are well funded by corporations.
Oh,
That's
well-funded,
another way. Yeah.
well funded. So
See,
if
that way
could-
we wouldn't have to
Okay,
be
so
saddled
money
with
could
this
rule
huge responsibility
somebody
of
else's
having to think for
money.
ourselves about who we want to choose,
Okay.
because the corporations would just market candidates to us.
So
that-
somebody else's money could rule our lives for us.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Is that how that works?
Somebody else's money could do that.
Could
Yeah.
rule our lives for us, and then we wouldn't have to think too much about the fact that this all like heads or tails. One of two bad choices kind of thing.
Okay. Well, it's always convenient when you don't have to think too much because you. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. What were you talking about, Peter?
How many gigabits per second is a good like a personal internet channel? How many? 1 bit
I
every
don't
4
know.
years? Is
Oh,
that-
oh, that's about it. Okay.
1 bit every 4 years would
And
be
that's,
like,
and that's
like
how we
internet.
exercise influence on our political
Well,
system.
and knowledge would be the same way. You'd like every 4 years. You'd
Okay,
like
okay, Peter, we're going to go out on a big limb here. We're going to go out on a big, scary, dangerous limb that's way out from the trunk of the tree, and it might even be kind of a thin reed to stand on. But let's just say, for the sake of conversation, that maybe that's not the ideal system, what we've been discussing for the last few minutes. What then might be a system that would be more ideal? Like, what are some components of what that system would look like? Like, I have an example. Would that system involve a spoiler effect? And what is a spoiler effect?
Oh, you mean like when Nader comes along and draws votes?
Oh,
from
and
the
he
door?
ruins it for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the Democrats say. The Nader ruined it for everybody. I would say 2000 really didn't have much to do with Nader as much as it had to do with Bush stealing the election down in Florida with the help of the Supreme Court.
Oh, or Diebold, bless their hearts.
Yeah,
a
that was
bit
so
of
nice
cash
of them,
flow,
right.
a little bit of hacking. There's no need to actually
Yeah,
like
a
anything.
few Republican rent-a-mobs down in
Yeah,
Tampa.
no automated
right.
cross-checking between computers such that if one of them steps out of the line, the other 100 notice. None of that. These are computers that are all run by Diebold, so they can actually collude together quite comfortably.
But so anyway,
to
let's
tip
just give the people who've been yelling and screaming at me on the internet, yelling and screaming at me about how the third parties are the cause of all this ruin because they will inevitably lead to, the Mitt Romney type candidates to get elected. So what's that all about?
So you want to mitigate the spoiler effect like by using Condorcet's method? Is that what you're suggesting?
Condorcet? Who's Condorcet?
Oh, he's a French
What do
mathematician.
people know
He
about
lost
these
his
things?
life 220
Right.
years ago because Napoleon felt threatened. The Condorcet working in ranked choice voting could pose a threat to his power.
Ranked choice voting, what's that?
So they arrested him and threw him in jail. And
What's ranked choice voting, and why would Napoleon want to kill somebody over it?
Well, because maybe Napoleon wasn't the guy who really was as popular as he thought he was.
As he made himself out to be with his
As he'd like to
public
think he
relations
was. Yeah,
campaign.
he wanted
Right,
to pretty
yeah.
much kill off
The
anyone who would remind him
Emperor,
otherwise.
right, yeah.
So
Seems like
yeah.
a lot of people thought otherwise, actually.
Yeah.
Funny
so,
how that works. Okay.
So, and the idea that he would spread the word that there was a way to like figure out who really was most popular that worked better was kind of threatening, And so you arrest that guy.
You said that was a ranked choice ballot system. Well, how is that different than the way that, say, an election in the United States would run? You go to the ballot booth, and you can vote for this candidate or that candidate or that candidate. How's that any different?
Let's assume we have 3 groups of people about the same size, okay? And they all want a particular candidate. They all want So we don't know who's going to win, but whoever wins, 2/3 of the people, their first choice was for someone else. Okay,
I
so that means that those 2/3 of the people who didn't win, they'd really like to have their second choice represented. Because maybe they have common ground in the second choice, which is more powerful.
So if you went to vote and then instead of pick one candidate in a winner-take-all election, you would say, tell us who your first choice is, tell us who your second choice is, tell us who your third choice is, and then you would tally those numbers.
Well, and you would tally them head-to-head, just two at a time, so there's no third party coming into each pairwise combination. So you tally them up, A versus B, and B versus C, and C versus A.
Okay.
And then if there's one candidate who wins over the other two, you got a clear case winner. And there's no spoiler effect because you only tallied each one against one other candidate in each pairwise combination.
Ooh, that was a lot of words. So just to make sure that people have this clear, the spoiler effect is, so say like the Ralph Nader scenario, which is to say people on the left side of the political equation in that particular election are split between, do we want to vote for Nader, who for a lot of people probably more closely represents their interests, or do we want to vote for Gore because he's not as bad as Bush, but more likely to win?
Yeah. And,
So
and that debate...
You end up with a devil's bargain there, where a good portion of people are forced to vote for a candidate who's their second or third favorite candidate, because that candidate has been deemed by the media or whoever as being the most electable, the pollsters.
So the critical thing here is that you are allowed to express both your first choice and your second choice, and maybe your third choice, so that your interests are consistently represented irrespective of who the front runners might be.
Okay, so now that's Condorcet, back from the Napoleonic period in France. You have written a paper that takes some of his ideas and adds some new components, you might even say advances them to some extent. What are the differences between your system and Condorcet?
Well, okay, Condorcet there was another mathematician in French Parliament by the name of Borda who also did some work in ranked choice vote tallying. And ever since then, people have been debating about which of the mathematics of these two is correct. And what we figured out is that they were both correct, but they had different understandings of the problem.
Okay.
And that, in fact...
And those two different understandings of the problem were...
Well, one of them is ideal for a society which wants to game the system to the nth degree. Which is
game the system, you mean
get
somebody like Karl Rove coming along and manipulating things.
So if you have a society full of Karl Roves, okay, now we don't have a society full of Karl Roves.
But hypothetically, if we did, if everybody was Karl Rove,
then Condorcet's method would actually be mathematically ideal.
Because it would eliminate the ability to game the system?
It's as hard, it's as game hard as is theoretically possible.
Okay.
Okay, now on the other hand, Borda had a system which he confessed to others only, quote, works for honest men. Men who believe in compromise, who are willing to sacrifice things for the benefit of someone else's well-being. And that is based on utility theory.
Okay.
Okay, and so Borda came up with a formulation which is for very peaceful, harmonious people who don't game against each other at all. They just work towards common ground.
Assuming a society with no Karl Roves in it.
None.
None,
right,
none
right.
at all. So clearly that's not a society. We live in a society with Karl Roves and Ed Gillespies and we'll pick on the Democrats a little bit
all
to
Karl Roves.
David Axelrods and those sorts of folks.
So they're not. We don't have a society absent of Karl Roves, and we don't have a society which is only Karl Roves. Okay.
Okay.
And
so we're a happy medium.
Right,
in our Karl Rove to regular citizen ratio.
And every individual, in fact, on the scale between the totally harmonious and the totally, competitive individual, is somewhere on the continuum in between those two.
Right.
And what we figured out was that if you allow the voters' vote to be expressed in the way they most desire,
okay,
you can build a system which more accurately figures out what everybody wants.
What do you mean by the voters' will, like allowing it to be expressed? What do you mean by that particular component?
Well, okay. There are some things we feel moderately about, and we're willing to give something up for the sake of making someone else happy. That's known as transpersonal utility. And there are
transpersonal utility. That is
to say I'm willing to give up something so you can you might care about it more than I. And I'm saying it doesn't matter much to me.
Right.
I know it matters to you, so I'm going to give it up, and you're going to be happier. Mm-hmm. And because we're happier, we're all better off. Okay.
So that would apply to people for certain issues, but not others.
Well, and Karl Rove wouldn't do that.
Of course. Right.
Okay.
Karl Rove, his goal is to maximize the system for his own benefit and marginalize anybody who disagrees with him.
All right, we got it.
So, yeah. Okay.
Okay, now there are other individuals who are willing to give up everything, perhaps even their lives for other people.
The aesthetic Gandhi types, right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Gandhi didn't actually march in the front and let
the historical technicalities.
He convinced everybody else.
You get the general stereotype of what we're talking about.
Okay, but it turns out that people are on the continuum and different people are at different points along that scale. And if you let them describe for themselves how they are on that scale, and you match the way they vote to fit that disposition, that style, then you can actually capture more information about what people really want.
So that concept that you just articulated, that's something you can actually express in a mathematical equation for running an election system.
Yeah, yes, if you have a whole bunch of choices and you express them with sliders on a personal utility scale.
Okay, I see.
Okay,
yeah.
And some of them are higher than others because you want them more.
Sort of like the sliders on an audio board.
You bet.
And you can okay, that one's a 10, that one's like a 6. Just how important is it to you?
Yeah, things down at the bottom there are things you don't want.
So not only are you voting for what your position on a different issue is, but you're also voting for how important is holding this position to you? How important is this issue to you?
Yeah, so there's this continuum. Like you might have 25 possible things that you're deciding between, and each one of them you put on this personal utility scale. And if it's high, that means you want it a lot. If it's down low, you'd rather not have it. You're always going to desire to have an outcome which is higher up on this scale. And the more you can raise the outcome in that direction, that's what your vote wants.
Well, that's very interesting, Peter. If people want to learn more about this, you have your paper online, correct?
Yes, I do. If you go to Voting Matters, if you Google Voting Matters with a UK, after it for United Kingdom,
yes,
you'll find yourself on the Voting Matters website, which is about the theoretical aspects of ranked choice voting.
Okay.
If you go to issue number 27, first article, Durham and Lindener.
And you're Lindener. You're Peter Lindener.
Yes.
Peter Lindener. So that's issue 27, votingmatters.uk.
Yeah.
And so people should go check that out if you want to be more educated about it. There's only so much that we can cram into the short amount of time that is available for us on the memory of this particular video camera that we're using.
The title of the paper is Moderated Pairwise Differential Tallying.
Oh, that's easy to remember. Pairwise differential
number
tallying.
27.
That one. Okay, great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for coming on the Magic Box, Peter. Yay! And cut.